Welcome to Live with Anton Gunn. It is 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. East Coast time. For everybody in the Central and Mountain time zone, it's time to get in where you fit in. Now, you might notice this week I said 11 a.m. Pacific before I said 2 p.m. East Coast time. Why? Because I'm coming to you from the Pacific Coast. I'm actually in California today, recording this session live for you to make sure that I give you what I was going to give you every single week without delay, regardless of vacation, regardless of the 4th of July, regardless of any holiday. I want to make sure I add value on Wednesdays. Today is Wednesday, Wu Tang Wednesday, if you didn't know. Now, I'm actually in California celebrating with my daughter who graduated from high school, who achieved a milestone, who graduated from high school. She's on her way to college. And so we decided to take a trip to the left coast to hang out in California, to do some sightseeing, some tours. We had a whole agenda scripted out and planned. And I can tell you, it was one of the most adventure filled trips I've ever had in my life. A lot positive, but also some negative. I won't talk about that here today because today I want to continue to part two of the session that I started last week on goal achieving or achieving your goals, how to set and achieve your goals. And if you were not tuned in last week, I want you to go back and watch last week's video because it's going to give you some foundation of the things that I'm going to talk about today. And it's important for you to have that foundation if you want to make the most out of everything that I'm sharing with you. See, I know you want to be the greatest leader in your organization. You want to achieve your biggest goals. You want to achieve your highest success. I totally get that. I totally understand that you're goal oriented and goal focused, and you might have set some goals. But as I said last week, it's not good enough to just set some goals. You got to have a vision, a long term, detailed mental picture of a desired future that you want to create for yourself. What is your vision of your long term goals? Not for next year, not for 2 years from now, not 3 years from now, not even 5 years from now. But let's forecast out into the future. 10 years from now, what do you want to be doing to show that you are the most successful and impactful leader could possibly be? If you have that type of vision for yourself, then you've done part one of what it takes to achieve your goals. Part one is having a vision. You got to have a vision. But a vision without a plan is nothing but a pipe dream. I want you to hear me when I say that. A vision without a plan is nothing but a pipe dream. And you can dream every night. Every night we all go to sleep, and many of us dream in our sleep, and we see these amazing things. But then when we get up, we forget all about them. That's what I mean, dream. But if you have a vision, if you can see it, you can achieve it. If you see it, you can believe it. If you believe it, then you can achieve it. There's some basic principles. Matter of fact, that was a motto of my elementary school district when I was growing up. You had to see it, believe it, achieve it. There was something along those three lines. I can't remember exactly, but I remember if you went to school in Norfolk Public Schools in the 70s or the 80s, it was clear you had to, see it, believe it, achieve it. That's what I remember the mission statement, if you will, of the district was at that time. Now, I don't want to get sidetracked from this week's message because I think this is really important for me to give you. And what better place for me to give you than to give it to you from California? Why? Because, there are three major cities in California. Some might even say there's five. But we all know San Francisco, we all know San Diego, and we all know Los Angeles. Well, we know Los Angeles is a city in which a lot of people come to fulfill their dreams. That's the way they say it. Like if you come out here to Los Angeles, you're coming out here to fulfill your dreams of being a Hollywood actor or being a comedian or to be a movie producer or to be something in the film and entertainment industry. Maybe you're coming out here to become a major rock star. It doesn't matter. You have a dream of achieving that. But I'm here to tell you that most of the people who come out here to Los Angeles that achieve the highest levels of success, they don't have dreams. They don't. They have a vision for their success and they set some realistic, some significant, powerful goals that they set out to achieve. Now, we've all heard the phrase success leaves clues. Well, after spending a few days in Los Angeles, I'm clear about the clues that success leaves. And so I want to use this as a metaphor and a framework that if you want to achieve your biggest goals, you have to understand how to find the clues of success. I found them and I've been found them. I mean, I used them for years to achieve my biggest goals, but I want to know, do you understand the clues that it takes to achieve success? Now, again, the first thing you got to have is you got to be real clear about your vision. What is the vision that you see for yourself and your family, that you see for where you're trying to go? You got to have the vision. If you don't have the vision, then you're living in a pipe dream. But I'm telling you right now, the people who achieve their biggest goals, they have the vision first. Once they got that vision locked in, they now got to set the goals. They got to set the benchmarks. They got to set the metrics. Got to set the step-by-step points to achieve that goal. Again, last week I told you how GPS works. If you're trying to go to California from Virginia Beach, Virginia, you got to type in your endpoint destination in the GPS. So I have to put in a Los Angeles address if I'm trying to get to Los Angeles. I type in the address, and the GPS will map out the most direct, safest, error free trip to Los Angeles from Virginia Beach, Virginia. That's how GPS works. But I want you to know success in life works the exact same way. If you want to achieve your biggest goals, if you want to literally roadmap how you get to that desired mental picture of that future that you want to have for yourself, for your family, for your team, for your company, for whoever you want to have that vision for, there is a clear and simple roadmap. And there was no better place for me to see that than here in Los Angeles, California. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what do I mean success leaves clues, okay? So I want you to think about the 10 biggest actors in Hollywood history. I don't care who you name. Let's just pick two that I know are in the top 10 of the biggest actors in Hollywood history. The first is Samuel L. Jackson, and the second is Eddie Murphy. Now, the reason why I named those two, because I know that Samuel L. Jackson has been in more movies than any other actor in the history of Hollywood. More movies than anybody else. Now, they all have not been the highest grossing movies, but he's been in more movies than anybody else. So, by a measure of success, he's the most successful actor because he's done more movies than everybody else. The second one is Eddie Murphy. Now, Eddie Murphy started his career as a comedian, but I can tell you with a sheer, clear fact, Eddie Murphy has made more money than any actor in the history of Hollywood. He has made more money from movies than anybody in the history of Hollywood. So, by that measure of success, Eddie Murphy is the best. Okay, so those two actors. Now, when I talk about success leaving clues, now let me just give it to you that there will always be some variations. There will always be some outliers. There will always be some people who there is no blueprint. There is no roadmap. There is no game plan. There is no step by step formula for how they got there. Some people get there by sheer dumb luck. Some people carve a whole new niche and carve their own new path, and stuff happens, and then they become successful like that. There is a story for me to tell about those people another day. But today, I want to help you to become that chief executive officer that you so desire to be. I want you to achieve that big title, that SVP title, that goal that you've been shooting for, the thing that you said that you had wanted to achieve since you started in your career path. And you're frustrated because you're not there now. I want to give you what it takes to get there. And I'm not going to focus on the anomalies or the rare exceptions. I'm going to focus on the rules because there's rules to the road, there's rules to the game, there's rules if you want to achieve that level of success. Okay. So let me give it to you, and I'm going to jump right in. And I got about 10 minutes to give you this roadmap. So the first thing I want you to know, both about Eddie Murphy and Samuel L. Jackson, is that both of them call Los Angeles, California, home right now. Yeah, they both grew up in different places. Like I know Eddie Murphy grew up in New York. Okay. I don't know where Samuel L. Jackson, but I know he went to college in Atlanta, Georgia. So at the beginning of their career, both of them were nowhere near Los Angeles, California. But to achieve their success, to achieve the goals that they set out for themselves, ultimately, they had to end up in Los Angeles, California. So proximity is important. That if you want to achieve certain levels of success, you have to be in proximity. You have to be in the location where the successful things are going to happen. So, what am I saying to you as a leader? That if you want to be in the C suite one day, then you got to get in proximity to the C suite. You can't achieve the C suite from the mailroom unless you're in proximity of the C suite. Now, how do you get in proximity of the C suite? Well, this is what I'm going to give you the game plan for how to achieve those goals. That's the first thing, proximity. I want you to take note. If you're taking notes and writing this down, write down proximity. You got to get in proximity. Okay. Now, here's a little 1A of that proximity, which is don't be afraid to pay for proximity. And what do I mean, pay for proximity? If you're in Hollywood, sometimes you might have to pay a higher price to get into certain nightclubs if you want to go to the nightclubs where the stars hang out, if they still hang out in clubs. I don't know if they do, but some stars go out to nightclubs. So if you want to go to the nightclub with your friends, it might cost you $40 to get into that club. But if you want to hang out in a nightclub and be in proximity with the movie stars that you hope to be like one day, you might have to pay $100 to get in that club. But I'm telling you right now, don't be afraid to pay for proximity. You gotta be okay with paying for proximity. The second thing I want to tell you about Eddie Murphy and about Samuel L. Jackson is that they both study their craft. Now, when I say study their craft, you don't become the actor in the highest grossing films of all time without learning how to act. You don't become the actor who's been in the most movies of all time without learning how to act. They both learned how to act. Now, let's be clear. They didn't learn how to act the exact same way. Samuel L. Jackson went to college, and then I think he was a theater major in college. But Eddie Murphy was not a theater major. He was not at all trying to be an actor. He was trying to be a stand up comedian. Eddie Murphy's only goal was to be funny. That was his goal. And he focused on being funny, and he actually became the best funny man on TV for a whole stint when he was on Saturday Night Live. The Gumby sketch on Saturday Night Live, the James Brown sketch, Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, Kill My Landlord. All of these were incredibly funny sketches. Buckwheat was an incredibly funny sketch on Saturday Night Live. Eddie Murphy was at the pinnacle of his career because he was on Saturday Night Live. So as a comedian, Eddie Murphy had to learn how to tell jokes. He had to study how to be funny. He had to find his timing. But he was naturally funny, of course. But to be a great comedian, you got to study. You got to prepare yourself. To be a great actor, you got to study and prepare yourself. And if you want to be a senior level executive, you have to prepare yourself. You have to study to prepare yourself. Now, I know you probably say, Anton, studying to be a comedian or studying to be an actor, there's no study book on how to be a chief executive. You're wrong. You know why? Because you need to be watching this live every week because I've given you the blueprint of successful executives, effective executives. I've given you the blueprint previously on how to be a CEO. So don't tell me that there's no blueprint. I know the blueprint. I've been around enough CEOs. I've read the books about CEOs. I've read the books about how people build companies, and I'm real clear on the clues of success. And I've brought them to you in content form to make it easily digestible for you in 20-minute increments in order for you to understand what it takes to study to be a successful C-suite executive, a CEO, a SVP, whatever you're trying to achieve. I don't know your goals. I got mine and I achieved them, but I've given you the blueprint on how to achieve yours. What are the clues that lead to that success? Now, here's the third thing I want you to understand about both Eddie Murphy and also Samuel L. Jackson. I told you about proximity. I told you about studying their craft. The third thing I want you to get about both of them is that they had to work for it. Nothing was handed to them. And when I mean nothing was handed to them, becoming in the most movies of all time means you got to audition a lot of movies. I mean, like if Samuel L. Jackson doesn't get all of those parts and all of those great movies without auditioning over and over and over and over again, Eddie Murphy doesn't become the highest grossing actor of all time if he does not appear on stage repeatedly, 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 repeatedly. So let's unpack that a little bit more for Eddie Murphy. Well, let's just unpack them for both. Okay. I told you proximity is important. If you come out to Los Angeles, California, you're going to see the locations of proximity. Like I took a tour of the city and I learned very clearly that some of the most famous comedians of all time all had an early performance at a place called the Laugh Factory. The Laugh Factory is a comedy club in Los Angeles. I believe it's on Sunset Strip. I could be wrong about that. I'm not too great with the street names just yet, but I do know that when you drive by the Laugh Factory, you'll see the names of almost every famous comedian who's performed a stand up in that Laugh Factory. And it literally is a list of who's who in Hollywood: Adam Sandler, George Lopez, Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle. You name it, they've all been on the stage at the Laugh Factory. But they don't just let anybody on the Laugh Factory. They only let people on the stage of the Laugh Factory who got a polished performance, meaning that they've been doing stand up for a very long time before they get on the stage of the Laugh Factory. Actually, some people might be doing stand up for 10 years before they even get a sniff at the Laugh Factory. There's another location out here. There's a couple nightclubs out here that if you want to become a famous music star, rock and roll star, you got to perform at one of these two nightclubs. I mean, my tour guide told us that Elton John's first performance in the United States was at one of these nightclubs. That he didn't become a big international music star in the United States until after hitting that stage. And there are other groups like the Doors, and I don't name all of the rock groups because I'm not into rock music. Y'all know that I'm a hip hop kid through and through. The only rock groups I know are Aerosmith and Anthrax and Metallica. Why? Because two of the three did collaborations with some great hip hop artists, Run DMC and Public Enemy, respectively. So I want you to know that you got to study your craft. You got to work and prepare, and you got to audition time after time after time again. Now, if you want to be that chief executive, what am I telling you to do in terms of audition? You got to be applying for jobs. You got to be applying for jobs. You got to be applying for opportunities. You got to be looking for CEO roles on LinkedIn and putting in your application and seeing if you can get an interview. Now, some of them, you're never going to get an interview, just like some movies Samuel L. Jackson never got, some movies Eddie Murphy never got. That's okay. You think they quit because they didn't get an interview? You think they quit because they didn't get the role? Absolutely not. So you better not quit if you didn't get the opportunity that you applied for. You better not quit because you got told that you're not ready to be CEO. You better not quit because you were told that you don't look and act like a chief executive. Don't make any excuses. Don't quit. Don't let anybody ever tell you no. You keep applying. You keep applying. Now, here's the last principle that I'm going to give you. This is actually your homework. This is what I want you to do if you really want to achieve the success that you say you want to achieve. So you can look at Eddie Murphy, you can look at Samuel L. Jackson, you can look at any of your favorite celebrity actors, and they all have some things in common. They all have some clues in common. But you may not know the details of all of the things that they have in common. So you have to do the work to understand what they all have in common. I've kind of given you a few things. The LA thing is in common. The nightclubs that everybody that performs in, if they want to become famous, they have to do. There might be a theater company that if you want to become a great actor, you got to do a stint at that theater company before you get on a real sound stage to make a movie, soundstage to make a movie. But I don't know what those are because I don't want to be an actor. You don't know what those are because you don't want to be an actor or a comedian. But if you want to be an executive in your company, you need to start to do the homework of what the most successful executives in your organization had to do to achieve those goals. Let me give it to you like this. I worked with a company several years ago that the three previous CEOs had all started their career in the general counsel's office. That if you wanted to become CEO of this company, the three previous CEOs were lawyers and they all worked in the general counsel's office. Now, does that mean somebody could become CEO and not be a lawyer? Yes, that does mean that. But in this company, it is not at all likely if the three previous CEOs started in the general counsel's office. I also worked with another company where the three previous CEOs worked at an outside company before joining their company. Now, what am I telling you when I give you both of those examples? I'm giving you this. There's sometimes the pathway to achieve your goal means that you need to map out which department you need to get yourself into now to learn some prerequisite skills that put you in position to become the CEO. But I'm also telling you that depending on your company, if you've worked there for 30 years, you ain't never going to become CEO because they have a history of hiring people outside of the company to get them to the CEO role. So you got to understand what's the roadmap, what's the game plan inside your company, inside your organization. So you need to do that work. You need to do that research. You need to do that analysis and that understanding. So here's what I'm going to tell you to do. This is your homework assignment. This is what I've done in my career to achieve the levels of success that I have achieved. And I tell my daughter this, I tell anybody who wants to be successful, here's the simple game plan. Homework assignment. I want you to write down the names of 5 people who have the title and role that you would love to have. If there's only one person like it in your company, then write that one person's name. But I'm pretty sure your company has peers in the industry. So go find the 4 peers in your industry and find the 5 names of the people who have the title that you want to have. So for instance, if I wanted to be the CEO of a major record label, then I could go to Def Jam Records, Columbia Records, Universal Music Group. There's several Capitol Records. You can name them. You can find the ones that you want to name. Pick the labels, 5 labels, and there are 5 CEOs. Okay. So once I have those 5 CEO names, the next part of the homework is to find their biography online. Now, if you're talking about in the entertainment industry, everybody's pretty much got a Wikipedia page that tells their whole life story. But in business, it may not be on Wikipedia. Actually, you may have to do some real research. You may have to go to the library and see if you can find a biography on the CEO of X, Y, and Z company. You might have to go to a journal of some sort, a business journal, where they tell their story. Because all CEOs have an article written about them somewhere. Particularly the bigger the company, the bigger the article. But even if you're a small CEO of a 200-person company, there's something that's been written up about them. Maybe they won an award from the city. Maybe they won an award from the county. Maybe they won an award in their industry anywhere. You can find the bio of a CEO. Now, the reason why I want you to find that bio, because inside of that bio are all the clues of success, all of them. Where did they go to school? What companies did they work for before they got to the CEO role? Are they a new entrepreneur or is this their 5th entrepreneurial venture? Do you know anything about the previous companies that they tried to start that didn't work before this one hit? What did they get a certification in? Who were they affiliated with? What cities did they live in? Like all of these are clues for success. Now, I'm not telling you you got to move to the exact same city of every one of those CEOs if you want to be successful, but I'm telling you You will look at 5 different biographies and see the similarities and the differences. And then you will also see what things you don't have on your bio, what you don't have on your resume that will keep you from being positioned that you want to achieve, that they achieved and that you want to achieve. So I'm telling you right now, if you do the work, the homework of finding the 5 names and titles who have the job that you really want, that you want 10 years from now, not the job you want tomorrow, but the job that you want 10 years from now. If you find the name and the title and the biography of the person who has the job right now that you want to have 10 years from now, and then you read that bio, you study that bio, you document the similarities and the differences, like literally where they went to college, what degree field they have a master's degree in, do they have a terminal degree, what school did they go and get their terminal degree, what companies did they work for before they came to the company and became the CEO? Were they an internal candidate for 30 years or did they move to company? All of those things are going to give you some roadmap ideas, some roadmap of a game plan of the things that you might consider doing over the next 10 years if you want to achieve that same level of success. Otherwise, it might just be a pipe dream. And I don't want you to have a pipe dream. I want you to achieve your goals. And you do that by first understanding that you have to plan with the end in mind. What is the vision? Where you want to be? Don't be afraid to pay for proximity. You gotta understand that sometimes paying for proximity might mean spending money to join a country club because the 5 CEOs that you looked up, they all are members of the same country club. And that might be an expensive pay for proximity, but you might need to be in that country club because success leaves clues. In addition to that, you want to work hard. You want to prepare yourself. You want to study the craft every way, shape, or form. What is CEO behavior? What is that chief executive behavior? What do you need to be doing if you want to be that guy? If you want to be the one that everybody sees and respects in that role? What do you want to be? What do you need to be doing if you want to be that woman that everybody loves, that everybody sees as an executive? And then you got to, again, audition. That means interviewing for jobs. That means trying out things. That means applying for schools. It might even be me going back to school and then applying in multiple places. You got to do those things. But the most important thing I want you to do is to find the 5 names of the people who are doing the job that you want to do, the way that you want to do it, with the title that you want to have. And I want you to look at their bios. I want you to look at their biographies, everything in the biography, and see what similarities they have in common. See what differences they have in common. See how you might be able to shorten the line to get to where that they are because you've been able to do the research. That's what I got for you this week. So I hope this message resonates with you. I hope this gives you some semblance of a game plan of what you need to be doing if you want to achieve your biggest goals. With that, my name is Anton Gunn. I will see you next week. And again, if you want this work, you want help, not just for me giving it to you like this, but if you want to maybe get some coaching, I'm going to encourage you to click the link in the bio to my coaching program. It's not a free for all. You have to apply because I only take a few people who are serious about achieving their goals, who want to meet their next level. Because otherwise, I don't have time to fool around with people who want to play around and pick my brain, but never use anything that I share with them. So I only want to work with the people who are serious about it. So go to antongunn.com/coaching, antongunn.com/coaching. There's a link in the bio for you. If you do that, then we'll talk about it. But otherwise, get this free game that I'm giving you about how to achieve your goals. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your week. Take care.